Hello there. Before the end of the video, please consider liking and subscribing the video since it really helps out the channel a lot. Thank you. The Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Maul, and his apprentice, Savage Opress, would build their army of Mandalorians, and after many months they would be close to about 200,000 Mandalorians wearing their Beskar armor. Each armor would have a color pattern of black and red, and each Mandalorian have their unique pattern on their armor showing their respect and loyalty to the Sith Lord. The Jedi would come up with some sort of attack to retake Mandalore, causing as little casualties as possible. Bo-Katan would call the Jedi for help to try and capture or kill Maul and retake the world. The Jedi Council would be very skeptical in helping since they know the planet has a greater separatist protection than any other planet under Maul's rule. Eventually, the Jedi Council would agree to help them, so they gather their entire Jedi Council and some other masters with their battalions to attack Mandalore. This attack would be the greatest the galaxy has ever seen throughout the Clone Wars. Maul would sense the incoming attack and would prepare to defend the planet, and he would bring the army of the Republic would bring almost all their Venators with the help of Bo-Katan's ships. It would make the battle in space much more even than it would have been without them. Many clones would be killed, and the casualties for the Mandalorians would climb a bit throughout the battle. Maul would prepare his ground troops since about half of the 501st and the 212th battalions were able to make the first push down onto the planet's surface. Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker would lead the charge, and this first assault would be fairly deadly, with many clones being injured and some being killed. Obi-Wan calls for any possible backup as the Mandalorians are defeated. Bo-Katan's fleet of Mandalorians and the 104th Battalion would make their way down to the planet's surface, and they would begin to make their assault on the city. Anakin, Obi-Wan and Plo Koon would lead the charge as Rex, Cody, Wolf and Bo-Katan would follow, and behind them would be the 104th, 212th and the 501st Battalion allied with the Mandalorians following Bo-Katan. They make it to the city and are greeted by the ground Mandalorians following Maul. No one yet fires, and a huge hologram is presented to the Jedi, and that hologram shows Darth Maul on his throne. He gives a speech about how much more powerful he and his army is against the Jedi, and they will soon be destroyed. He finishes with a threat to Kenobi to ensure that he will keep him alive to watch the entire Republic order fall, and he will finally get his revenge. Maul commands the army to fire upon the Republic forces, and a massive battle ensues with many casualties on each side. The clones' forces would push up with the help of Jedi and Bo-Katan. After some time, the Separatist blockade would be destroyed, and the Republic would finally be able to send their entire army onto the planet. Maul would realize what had happened, and he would decide to take himself, Savage, and the rest of his ground troops into the tunnels below. The Republic sent the 104th Battalion and Plo Koon down there, and they were meted with a lot of resistance by the Mandos that served Maul. Anakin sends his battalion and himself down to help, and they would take care of the Mandalorians for a while. During this time, Maul would be able to sneak into the palace undetected to the clones, but Kenobi would sense something was off, so he would walk back up to the palace and meet Maul sitting in his throne. Obi-Wan would take out his lightsaber and contact Anakin, and Maul would allow this to happen, and then some dialogue would be exchanged. Savage would enter the room and ignite his lightsaber and begin to attack Kenobi, while Maul sat there and watched the show. Obi-Wan would do very well against Savage since he wasn't using his brute force as much and more technique. After a while, Savage would begin to get annoyed that he hadn't won the fight yet, and he would use a lot more of his brute strength, and he would knock Kenobi down onto the ground. Savage would be ready to strike down Kenobi until Anakin opened the door to the palace and pushed the Sith apprentice away. Anakin would see Obi-Wan hurt, and he would ignite his lightsaber, and Maul would stop Savage from attacking since he wanted to fight the Chosen One. Obi-Wan would toss his lightsaber to Anakin, and he would ignite that blade too. Maul would be ready in his stance while Anakin is in his. The two of them would stare at each other until Maul let out his forced scream and leaped towards Anakin. This fight would be incredibly intense, and Maul would eventually be able to disarm Anakin of Obi-Wan's blade. Maul would be on the attack for most of the beginning of the fight until Anakin uses the Force to push Maul out into the war-hogged streets of Mandalore. The fight of the Mandalorians and the 104th would have made its way onto the surface just before the battle between Anakin and Maul began. This fight would continue, and they would eventually find themselves in the tunnels where the 104th had just fought, and they would fight in a more enclosed space, which Anakin would do fairly well in. After seeing that Anakin is starting to overpower Maul, he would begin to flee again to the area which the Republic army marched down. They would continue to fight each other, and this would be where more of Anakin's rage would kick in, and Maul would not be able to keep up, especially with Anakin's furnace of a heart. Maul would eventually be disarmed of one blade, which means they would fight each other with one blade, and Anakin would find this much easier. After a short amount of time, Anakin would stare into the face of Maul and strike him down. He would return to the palace where Savage still stood waiting for his master. Savage would hold up his lightsaber and almost attack, but the army of the Republic would surround the whole building after winning the ground fight. Plo Koon and the members of his battalion would enter the surrounding area and into the room surrounding Savage and would eventually arrest him. Bo-Katan would be very grateful for the Republic's help and would be very remorseful about the amount of Jedi that were lost in the Battle of Mandalore. Thank you all for watching the video. If you want to see part 1, then make sure that you check out this video, because since it gives context about what happened before this video. Basically, yeah, it will give you context and make you understand it a lot more. If you want to see a stop motion version of this, then let me know down in the comments below. Now, with all that out of the way, thank you all again for watching the video. I hope you all have a great day, and may the Force be with you.